I'm Ian Faison, CEO of Caspian Studios, and I'm joined by a special friend. Emily, how are you?
I'm good. Nice to see you. You have such a sound so serious in your intro.
No,
I'm in
well,
phase.
I have to
No, you
keep it
just
consistent.
I know you do, but it just sounds so, I don't know. Almost like stealthy. I'm in
I do like stealth.
phase.
Stealth and speed, two of my most prized attributes. Um,
Yeah.
and yours is your marketing prowess. We were Slack messaging, and I was saying, I got to bring you on the show to just ask you a million questions about the state of marketing. You have some ideas that you've put into the world. I had some ideas that I put into the world, and I want to get your thoughts and feedback on all of
Okay.
those.
And I've done
So,
absolutely no prep, so this is the raw, unfiltered, not, you know, sleek version.
yeah,
We'll
it's the
see.
stealthy
I mean,
version.
maybe. I'm pretty well rehearsed to talk about this stuff all the time, so it should be fine. I like it better this way.
First question.
Okay.
So, the Gen Marketer, you came
Yes.
up with this idea. People are
Yes.
loving it. What is it?
Yeah. Gen marketer, GEN, which stands for, I tried to say this earlier to someone and I like couldn't say the sentence. So I'm glad I practiced. And I just led a 4 hour conference on this last week. And I was like, I can't get, what does it stand for? I don't remember. Not really, but I stumbled. So hopefully I'll do better this time. Gen marketer is a generalist that is an expert or an orchestrator with generative AI. That we got Gen count is two words with Gen in them. It's great at generating campaigns. We got three, and then is ready for the generational. That's the fourth shift in AI. But basically, it's name aside, it's reacting to the fact that given all of the shifts due to AI, a different composition of a marketing team is needed and a different skill set of every marketer is needed. So this could be a specific title and role, a gen marketer. I've seen some people put up job descriptions for it, et cetera. But it also is a skill set that I believe every marketer needs. So every marketer now needs to be able to connect the dots across fuel and engine, which is like your creative and your distribution engine. You need to be able to connect those dots into campaigns because there's so much crap put out there now and it's just harder to stand out. So if you don't have tightly coordinated campaigns for your specific audience, things are going to fall flat. So you really need to have like tight coordination, which requires someone that understands how all these things fit together. And so more generalists are needed. I think also it's just easier to pick up a specialty or be able to know enough to be dangerous on, say, like email marketing or let's say, I don't know, creating basic videos. And so because of that, fewer specialists in-house are needed and people with a general skill set that understand how to use AI to learn these things or understand how to when to go outside or externally to a contractor or agency that can help you with a specific specialty is a very in demand skill. And also just like these teams are leaner, so you have to have fewer people. So just this idea that I think there's been lots of shifts even in my 20 years in marketing, and a lot of those shifts have created more specialist marketing roles. But actually, like this shift, the AI shift, I think is just going to create the need for more generalists because the silos are just not going to work in this like very nimble, very high velocity environment. So there's a monologue on that, and you can ask me whatever.
I completely agree. Because everybody has, a window with ChatGPT open on their desk at any given time, and that they can take their ideas,
Mm-hmm.
drop them in there, say, hey, give me feedback on this, review this marketing doc as if you are Seth Godin himself, and give me feedback. That means that, like, the average level sort of intelligence of any given topic is already at your fingertips, but not just to like create new work, but to edit your existing work. So
Yep.
in that workflow, you already have the average level person that's like helping you do that.
Right.
And therefore, like, being a little bit dangerous at product marketing is now at your fingertips. So, like, to your point, there's higher leverage things that you can do, which is the coordinating the complexity of all of the different things that are happening in your company.
Yeah, it's turning like the disparate activities into like loops or flywheels or like compounding workflows or big bet campaigns, whatever it might be. But these actually initiatives that go beyond just like I made a piece of content and I shared it on the basic channels. So I think that like yeah, everyone has that ability to tap into that skill set. So, but every other company has that ability too, and so you have to really like know how to tap into audience insights and market insights and understand and take big creative bets. And so the creativity, the tight coordination, the taste and quality bar, like those things are what really matters now. And so I just don't actually think that marketing teams are set up for this. Like most people don't have anyone that's like a dot connector across content and brand, product marketing, growth, demand gen, except for their head of marketing and occasionally like a junior marketing coordinator. They have no one. Sometimes on larger teams, they have like an integrated campaigns manager. Like that term is just feels kind of dated to me in a lot of ways. And you need more people to connect the dots. And in some ways, product marketers connect the dots, but not in all ways. And so more around like product launches. And so if you think about a PMM, like leading a product launch, imagine if you had that same level of audience knowledge and product knowledge and market knowledge applied to every single campaign or initiative you did, and could connect those dots. And so there's lots of like models to look at. You can look at like kind of how PMMs work on launches. You can kind of look at how PMs operate in product. You can kind of think of it as like a chief of staff within marketing or a producer. But really, it's a generalist who has a specialty that they bring to the table. Like, don't get rid of your specialty, but understands this dot connection and the need to stand out and the need to differentiate and like what's going on in this world with AI and can use AI to fill in a lot of gaps. And so I just think that teams need to get out of their silos or you don't have a fighting chance.
I have two quick anecdotes for you that prove your theory. Number one, I was
Great.
on a call.
I'm excited to finally have the Ian seal of approval and proof on this.
That's why I was so excited when you posted it, because I'm like, this is exactly what I'm seeing. I was on a call recently that 8 people on the team, and they were trying to approve a company podcast. And I said to myself,
Jesus.
there's no possible way on earth that this is sustainable. This can't be sustainable.
Or that the result is going to be good. That's the other thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was thinking like the amount of money that they've already spent without knowing it on this company podcast of deciding whether or not to do it. What you could have just done is the gal who had the idea for this, if she is a gen marketer, she has all the context, she just run. And just like, say, and
yes.
Yep.
And you're the directly responsible individual. I mean, I spent 4 years at Asana, so I very much believe that like most things need a single owner and like can only assign a task to one person in Asana. That's very much on purpose because you can divide it up into smaller things and assign it. But like you need someone that owns it. And the more cooks in the kitchen you have, the worse the quality typically becomes on the creative side, especially. And so, yeah, the eight people, I worked at a company, I won't name which company, but if you looked at my background, you could guess. But that's not the point. The point is that we had all hands meetings every day at like dawn, like very early, like 45 minutes to an hour. And you were not allowed to miss them. Like it was required. Some version of an all hands meeting, whether like a demo situation, almost like at least 4 days a week. I think it was 5. And a lot of us did calculations on like how much this cost the company, and it was crazy. And so there's like a time and a place for that. But if like 8 people are on a call, unless it's like some sort of presentation filling on everybody in for a project, like that's nuts. And I think similarly, if you're working with an agency, like I heard someone that has a 1-person marketing team and they're working with a PR agency who brings 7 people to each call. Like something is not correct in the dynamics there either. So yeah, I mean, just too many people does kill some of the best marketing and this or creative ideas in general. And I think this is why some of these really lean teams are able to come up and beat everyone else right now. Like, because it's not the number of people you have on the team or the number of hours that you work. It's another like take on what's going on right now, but it's if you pick the right big bets that align with your business and you execute them well and you actually let the creative stand out and you actually get enough distribution through people that already have access to your audience, like that's how you do it.
And I think that the thing that gen marketers do better than anyone else is they're faster.
Well, right. They're high velocity.
Yeah. They make decisions faster. They already have the context for things. They already know the different disparate tools that they can be using, and they're going to orient around speed. And most marketing orgs are not going to orient around speed. And so I use this example in my newsletter that Eric Ries, who founded the idea of like the lean methodology. So he had this thing called, he was like, if you're going to an innovation score for a company, that the metric would be how is speed to experiment, right? How quickly can you send an idea to the CEO, get it approved?
I was like, I just read about this. That would be why, because you wrote it.
Like, there you go. I'm glad you're reading the newsletter.
Sometimes.
Yeah,
not always, I'm a busy person, but I apparently did read this.
So I was like, well, what if you were to give someone a content score? Like same sort of thing, right? It's like, how quickly could you get an idea up to get approved and get it back out. And like great companies are doing that stuff super fast. And so speed is so important. And you don't need to get, because the problem with functional heads is like you have all these functional heads that need to approve it. Brand has to approve it. Product
Yep.
marketing has to approve it. Everybody has to approve it. When the truth of the matter is, no, they don't. They
No, they
actually
don't.
don't.
Yeah.
One person just needs to say this is good enough. And the second anecdote is I was on a call where the CMO of a very big company went, I wish I had just seen this before it went live. And like, how many times have we seen that where the person who has all the context
Yeah.
is the one person who
Who
needed to
didn't
see it
see it.
before it went live? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. That's the other problem is it's not usually the right people or the people who can connect the dots. Or I mean, there's just so many problems with like some, with reviewing. Like reviewing is such a big part of a of a CMO's job. Like it's been so long. Like every day at the end of the day I'd have like tasks assigned to me no matter where I was in Asana with like specific due dates and I would review them all. But like what happens is like if you don't have a system for that, like you end up just reviewing the person who ask you to review things. It's there's no strategy in it. So you spend too much time on things that don't matter to be reviewed, and you spend not enough time on the things that do matter. And you really need like no matter the size of the team. This sounds like work that doesn't matter, but it does matter to say like what type of project is this? Is this the type of project where it needs a final look by that head of marketing, or is it a project that doesn't? So while I believe in speed and being able to do things and like time to execution and time to like content tests and things like that, I also believe that there are certain things that need to be looked at by like the head of marketing, but you need to have a clear system for that, or else it just becomes complete chaos and the wrong things. Um, but again, the point there is like there is this true thing right now, where even more than ever, I think this was always true, but quality or taste for your audience or that sort of thing, that like intangible thing, matters more right now. And so if you have people that have that, like you need to really like tap into that. Um, and have that person be involved in some of these review things or have them be leading some of these cross sub-functional things. But that matters so much. And I think it's often an undervalued skill.
So the second thing that I want to talk to you about. So I had this idea for what I'm calling a studio CMO. And I'm curious to your thoughts on this. So you can feel free to straw man, steel man, whatever you want to do to this. But so my take is that every CMO is now the head of a studio. And they can like it or not like it or whatever. Your studio can put out zero or it can put out other stuff. But the reason why I think it's more like a studio CMO than historically this whatever the old CMO job was is because a CMO, much like the head of a studio, needs to assemble talent, and that means like creators, influencers,
Yeah.
talented people, people with audience. They need to create narrative, which is a killer story, and they need to figure out what channels that goes out into. And like
Mm-hmm.
that's the exact same thing that a head of a studio needs to do. And the difference is that studio heads, what they do is they bring the most creative people, like hopefully in the planet, together on a project. They assemble them all onto a project. That project hopefully does very well. You know, in the studio world, it's like a film that makes $500 million or whatever it is. And then they coordinate that same exact type of thing, but they do it 10, 15 times a year. And
Yes.
they're all
And it's
working on different
power
projects.
law
That's
situation as well. Yeah.
for sure.
I use this is not directly related to it. I mean, it's somewhat related. It's the analogy a lot. Being a marketer is kind of like being a VC, which I had a foray into VC. I'm still an investor, but I had a VC fund for a minute, um, like a year ago for 3 years. And so being an investor, like you're investing in a bunch of things, and every single thing that you're investing in, you have to think has a chance to return your fund or a chance to get some huge outcome. Every single thing. So you're investing in a lot of things. You know, a lot of these things will fail, but you're investing with the lens of can it be huge? And if it can't be huge, like this can only be a small business, like this can't be huge, you don't invest in it. Your returning of your fund is not going to be made up by like incremental wins. It is made up by like making a few bets that return everything. It's power law. It's the thing. The Hollywood film, at least it's changing a little bit, but it used to be like this. I think it's with the like decline of the theater and like all of these networks, maybe it's changing, but for a very long time, it's a blockbuster strategy. Like it's literally a strategy that a studio is going to make a bet on a number of films, and they're going to expect one or two to return the whole thing. And it's the same thing. And so marketing is like kind of like that as well. Like you're going to invest in a number of different bets. And yes, like certain things are going to deliver incremental return, but like it's not necessarily one channel. People always say it's one channel that wins. I don't think it's that. It's more like it's
No.
one campaign. It's one big bet. It's one like type of initiative. It can be various things, but it's a series of big bets. And every single big bet you have to think has a chance to like make you win on go to market. And so you have to take a
Yep.
lot of these like strategically based big bets versus just incrementality or like random acts of marketing, which is what I call, well, random acts of marketing. It's aptly named, but like checklist marketing, doing a bunch of disparate activities. Like you need to do tightly coordinated activities that have a chance to let you win on go to market. And every big bet, every big initiative that your team spends a lot of time on, like needs to have that chance. And so it's a similar thing to, I guess, running a studio in that sense. But I agree as well. Like that's just like, power law, like structure of it, how to think about it. And like to get out of the random acts of marketing trap, which so many teams do. But I think you're right on the assembling teams thing, especially on like you're assembling teams for a specific project. But what happens typically in marketing teams now is they use the same team on every project and they end up bringing 8
Yes.
people to every meeting because they think that everyone needs to be there. When instead you need to develop, I never like this term, but like a tiger team for each campaign. And people are
Yes.
like, well, who owns those campaigns? I'm like, I don't care. Whoever's the best person to own that campaign. I don't care if it's like the person that owns that whole campaign that goes across channels. Someone needs to own it. You need to have a clear owner and you need to run with it. And it needs to be a big initiative after you've tested it. You need to have one or two of those things going at all times. And if it works, you double down and it sort of becomes a core thing that you do. And so people don't have this like, they don't think about marketing as a series of big bets or big initiatives. Like you test into them a lot, but they don't think about that. And so that's the thing. And then assemble the right team for that thing. And I think marketing will become more and more like that because you need to stand out in big ways and you're going to have lean teams. You're going to be using AI and you might be bringing in contractors and specialists for that thing. And yeah, so in those ways, I think I very much agree. But the one thing that it gives me pause to think about it that way is there's so much like, I don't know, what the cycle is every 18 months, someone's like, marketing should think of it as a media company. And like, I'm just over that metaphor of like, you are a media company or like you need to, you know, have everything live on your website because you're a media company. Maybe some companies do that, but that's not like the model that every company needs to deploy is like becoming a publication or becoming a media company. So this is different than that, but I can see people thinking it's the same thing.
I love the sentiment. The thing that I think with like the studio CMO, that because you nailed it when the same 8 people work on every project. Whereas like if you look at how Pixar creates films or Lucasfilm or whoever, like John Lasseter or Kathleen Kennedy, whoever it is, they're going to be an EP on every single thing that goes out of, Pixar, for example.
Yeah.
They're going to EP that. Well, I think that these like gen marketers, that if you have gen marketers that are EPing a handful of projects, but they're
Yes.
not, but the teams that work on those projects are different groups of people. So like if you're marketing to marketers and you want to work with Emily Kramer, you're going to take one of your gen marketers, you're going to EP the project and you're going to say, Emily, let's make something sick together. I don't know what it is yet, but let's like, you have a massive audience. Like, let's make something that is the best thing in our entire industry next year in 2026. Like, that just needs to live on its own. That does not need to be something that like to your point, every single person on your entire marketing team needs to work on. But if you have the gen marketer who has all of the context about all the other things that are going on in the organization, then you can do that. And then you can run 10 bets a year, and they don't all have to be
Right.
massive bets dollar wise, and they don't have to be
No.
massive bets bandwidth wise.
Oh, exactly. Massive bets does not mean dollar wise or bandwidth wise at all. It means like it's a unique enough combination of things that fit together well. And like here's an example. Like Lovable, the vibe coding platform, is growing a ton through hackathons right now. And so they have someone that kind of leads these hackathons. They have a specific like hackathon cohort thing for women called She Builds. Like they do a lot of these things. And so you imagine the hackathons, like who owns that? Is that a community person? Well, it's just a gen marketer. Like they're doing a lot of sharing on social. They're working with these people that participate in the hackathons as like basically partners who are sharing a bunch of content and doing the marketing for them. I would call that ecosystem marketing. So it's all these different pieces. And so that's like something that a Gen marketer would have, is like your hackathon program. And
Yep.
that would be a big bet. Like we can win if we get this in the hands of more people, and the people that then use it, then evangelize it and share it and become like a team of marketers. And Clay does a similar thing with the types of project Clay does. So I think that like Lovable and Clay do a good job of this sort of style of marketing right now, or anything that you see that you're like, that cuts through the noise. Another example I just used at my conference was Granola did like Granola Crunched, which was like Spotify Wrapped. And you've seen so many Spotify Wrapped
Yep.
knockoffs that fall flat, but this one didn't. And it didn't because they were so uniquely suited to do something like this, because they have all of this meeting, Granola does meeting transcripts, record your meetings without having a bot show up in the meeting. And they have all of these transcripts for people. So they're able to make it so highly personal that it landed. And then everyone shared it and did that for them. But like to lead Wrapped, you don't need your whole team on it, but you need a clear owner with a vision on it, and they need to go off and do it, and it like defies the marketing sub functions. So you need a Gen marketer to own that. And so that's kind of how people are like, well, what exactly does this do? Like, and it's exactly what you're saying. They spin things up like an executive producer would. And in fact, my first version of like this Gen marketer idea was a couple years ago. I wrote about how every team needs a producer, but then it
Yep.
became more clear that this producer needs to be very like an AI forward, and they need to be able to run these like campaigns. And so I kind of like, it's kind of a producer and kind of a campaign manager and kind of a product marketer and kind of an AI orchestrator, and all this together is kind of a Gen marketer. So all of these examples are very close to what I'm talking about.
I think that there's a lot of CMOs that were very used to like a one huge campaign a year type of a cadence. And I just really think that if we were to say, let's do one a month, that like, how would we orient our team if we were to do one a month? And then that immediately
Yeah.
changes all of the calculus, because you can't have everyone do everything. So if you're saying like, oh, we're going to go do like a, a campaign with like a huge celebrity, that's going to be like our big bet for the year, versus if we're going to do 12 big bets of different sort
Well,
of
that's the
ways of
portfolio
doing it. You have to
strategy,
say
right? Yeah. It's like
exactly.
all of them could be really great, and one is probably going to do better than all the rest, but go get these like 12 at bats, and that's the like test and scale kind of calculus that teams need to do. But again, it's the same as VC. Like you early stage VC, you invest in all of these early stage companies. You don't really do it month by month, but kind of you do. Through my fund, I invested in 35 companies in like 2.5 years with a business partner, or Kathleen, and so we did that together. And but we were doing like one a month. And so it's very similar. And like everyone we thought could win, not everyone is going to win, but you're incubating them or you're accelerating them. Like all of these models kind of work. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting. I think about a lot, like if we forgot everything we knew about how marketing teams were organized, which has just become like a messy, just a kind of a mess, honestly, for the years of all these sub functions that have been created as we add new channels and things like that. It's like, if you were to start again, like what would you do differently? And I think that you would have more of these generalists owning different projects and things, and then you'd have certain specialists where it was necessary, like that are complete experts in one thing that you would, kind of work with in like a, agency capacity, even if they're in house. It would look very different than what marketing teams look like today.
Yeah, I think that there would be like your creative studio, and then there would be like your sort of like the glue that's like
The campaign
holding
managers, the gen
everything.
marketers, the produce, exactly. And
Yeah.
then yeah, maybe there'd be, for what the channels that are working, maybe there are those channel owners, and then the campaign person or the gen marketer, in my parlance, is that a word? Sure. Is my nomenclature is, things off. Hey, this needs to go through this channel, but they're in charge of the whole damn like strategy and thought process, like an executive producer. So choose your metaphor: executive producer, VC, whatever one feels closer for you. And that's kind of how a head of marketing needs to be acting in this
Yeah.
AI era.
As I was thinking through this, I was like, what is the job of a head of a studio? You have to pitch projects that are big and scary. You have to get people to say yes. You have to fight like hell to get them made, and then you have to corral the talent and the resources around those things. And your job is to give the audience something they've never seen before. Your job is to create original stuff. That's what the LLMs want. That's what your audience wants. They don't know what it is yet. Nobody was sitting around begging Emily Kramer to create the Gen Marketer. But as soon as you came out with it, it started, people started liking it. That is originality. And like, that's the stuff that people are actually looking for. Like Mr. Beast has made an entire career out of giving the audience something they've never seen before. Oh, I'm going to watch someone race a shark. Oh, I've never seen that before. Like
Right.
that is the point. And like, as a CMO, you control green light. So you can greenlight 10 projects or you can greenlight 0
Hopefully.
projects.
Sometimes
But
your
if
founder
not,
does, and then
yeah,
that's a whole other thing. But it's,
but I think that like if you start to like remove the shackles of like, what if we were to do this many, how would I do it? And how do I partner with certain creators, or do I do other things? And like, how am I going to give something to the audience that they don't know that they want yet, like that they haven't seen before? And if you use that as the North Star, you're not going to be derivative. If you just say like, I'm going to give you stuff that you haven't seen before, you're inherently not going to be derivative. And I would bet you if you did 12 original things a year, that you're going to get a lot more people's
or
attention.
even six, depending on how size your team is. But like, you're making a series of strategic bets, or creative bets, stand out, unique, non-derivative. But the thing is like a lot of like, if it's like, well, where do these random ideas come from? Then people will ask you, and it's like, well, they actually start with a deep understanding of your audience, a deep understanding of your market, a deep understanding of like just what the pulse is in general on the channels where you do best, whether that be LinkedIn or somewhere else or at events, whatever it is, what people are saying, and that kind of needs to fade to the background. And then you just need to like, you know, you just create a brainstorm, right? But it needs to be rooted in those things. Like the reason that, like something like Gen Marketer hits is because I've had a million conversations with marketing teams who their marketing teams are just not operating well. And they're not putting out interesting work, and they don't know who to hire. And they go to hire another content person who stays in their lane again, and it continues to happen. And like all these AI skills are coming up at the same time, and people feel like overwhelmed by this. And they're like, who should do this? And so, it's rooted in this, but then it's like, you know, then it's like a creative idea on top of that. So you've got to start with like that deep understanding of the audience and the market. And so often, like the marketers, just even if they pretend that they are, they're not immersed in that enough, or they don't have enough conversations with people in that world, and they're not like living and breathing it. And that really helps.
Yeah.
Because if you're not living and breathing it, you literally don't know what's derivative in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
The the other thing that like is definitely false is like people are like, I was brainstorming with ChatGPT or Claude. And I'm like, okay, but like that's kind of like the inputs are all the old, like it's kind of by definition not how you should be brainstorming. It's kind of like how
It's
you should
the
be like,
that's the stuff that has
yeah,
already happened.
like,
Yeah.
and yes, it can like kind of like combine things in new ways. Like I know it's just not a regurgitation, but like it's derivative by definition. The way that you have like the random big creative ideas is like you take a walk, you don't work a 996, you take a walk, you like, you take a shower. It's kind of weird to talk, but it's true. Or like
Yep.
you just like hang out and do not, or you talk to people that you riff with well, and like you got to make room for those things too. And so often just teams don't make room for that stuff either.
Yeah. When George R. R. Martin started work, he was writing another book, and he just had this idea pop into his head that was like, they found the direwolf pups in the summer snow, and he was like, and then he just started asking himself questions, and he was like, who is they? Why are there
Mm.
dire wolves? What is the summer snows? That means it's somewhere cold enough. And then he just started picking at that, and that became Game of Thrones because he was working on some other
Mm.
project that he got bored of. And so, like, I think that that's where most good ideas come from, is just like starting with a single question and just asking, just investigating yourself of like, why is that the way that it is, and what could you develop to get to a good idea at some point. And I think that at the end of the day, like, there's more than enough of those ideas on most teams. I think the idea is like, or the problem is just there's nobody on the team that can go deliver an idea well executed. And I think, on the show, on our show
Mm-hmm.
Remarkable, where we talk about content, I mean, almost every single thing that we cover almost didn't get made. Like Godfather, they didn't want to cast. Nobody wanted to cast Al Pacino, and nobody wanted to cast Marlon Brando. Like, even the best creatives, the best things you've ever, the most popular pieces of content in the history of humanity, like most people didn't want that thing to get made. So like, how does that stand up when you have to go pitch your CFO something that's a little weird? You have to stand on business and say, this should exist. Trust me. Like,
Or
this
like
is my
yeah,
job.
or it is more helpful if you're like, I'm doing 5 of these tasks, right? Like this is one of the big tasks right now.
Exactly.
Like this is call it a test. That usually helps. In CFCO cover. This is just a test. Okay.
Yeah, no,
I'm gonna,
no,
it's so
de-risk
stupid,
it.
but that works really well. De-risk it. Yeah, totally de-risk it. But a lot of these things are going to be risky, and the companies that are comfortable taking those risks are the ones that are going to stand out and do interesting things. So I mean, you have the same story for like any startup too. Like the most successful ones, like almost didn't happen in some capacity. So again, it's very similar to how movies are made. Anything that's like a portfolio strategy, movies, startups, or like VC investing, marketing. But people don't think of it that way.
Okay, final topic here. We got
Okay.
5 more minutes. As you know, we just launched this founder brand sprint. We've been doing these founder brand sprints with people. And so I'm curious, uh, what do you think of this new age of like founders and CEOs and executives on your team having a bit essentially just a a platform like never before to either share really good stuff or potentially not as good stuff, and like what type of opportunity does that really create, good or bad?
Yeah, I mean, like I think it's just the facts right now that like personal brands do better, especially on like social media, than company brands. And there's like lots of reasons for that in terms of just like why. But I think the simplest reason to understand is that like right now, like people are reacting to the fact that of like these, sea of sameness or AI slop and all of these things feeling non-human, feeling derivative, feeling repetitive. And so things from humans tend to have more of a voice because brands are like kind of like lowest common denominator, it. And so founders can have a specific voice and a specific expertise, and it seems like more authentic and more trustworthy because it comes from a person, right? So when it doesn't work is when like the personality is stripped from the founder brand and it seems just like like a company brand. And company brands can do this really well too if they have a very distinct voice. But there's like all these reasons, but like human stuff is working really well and things that feel authentic and all that stuff. And also just now the platforms, especially LinkedIn, which is so popular for B2B, which is like the world that I play in, the algorithms are favoring individual accounts as well. And so it's just kind of like a necessary thing. It's not 100% necessary. It doesn't always work. But if you can make it work and you have a founder or an executive or a creator or someone on your team that is sort of a subject matter expert and can really tap into the audience, like that's a great way to grow. You can't force it, like anything. So if you don't have that, like, you can't just you can't force it. You can't make people. I like use this. I don't use a lot of memes in my stuff. I'm not like a meme. I'm not like good at the memes. I'm better at the diagrams, the frameworks, and the like funny one-liners. But like, or awkward comments in my newsletters. But I have a meme that's like, someone leading a horse to water, and obviously not making the horse drink. And that's what it's like when you try to make like your founder who doesn't want to post on LinkedIn post on LinkedIn. Like you can lead them there, but
Yep.
they're not going to drink, and it's going to fall flat. And it's a waste of time. But assuming you have someone that could be an expert here, it can work super well. But what happens is like uh you can spend a lot of time on this and it goes nowhere. And part of that is like you have to create a flywheel out of this. And so I call this like specifically founder brand on LinkedIn, the LinkedIn flywheel, which is you have to be posting organic stuff from the founder that's opinionated. You have to take the best things that work and put paid budget behind them through something called thought leader ads. And then that will grow your audience even more because you're boosting it and paying, for it to be boosted. And then you can continue to put out good stuff and rinse and repeat. And you can also mix in like paying influencers to do this and other organic posts. And you're just building this sort of like flywheel between organic and paid and growing the audience. But a lot of people just don't combine all those pieces well because they have like 10 different people owning different pieces of social, like the company brand and the founder and the people doing paid. And so your idea of a founder sprint is to like, how can we kind of concentrate this together and work with the founder and get the real ideas and get them off the cuff and get it not like through 27 different filters and what can they actually talk about and get those posted. And like the other thing that works really well right now is video. And so as much as it works well, but like LinkedIn at least changes its mind on exactly what type of video, what time, and when they want it to work. But vertical video works is a format that you should be experimenting with too, and that's what you all are great at is the video and audio stuff. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I said anything interesting there at all, except for the fact that like you are gonna do this. You need to think of it as like a cohesive like flywheel strategy. If you just do it piecemeal, it's just going to end up again being like random acts of marketing. So this is a great thing to be owned by a gen marketer or to work with an agency that can kind of own it end to end or help you own it end to end too.
My biggest thing for this is just like, you need a producer, an actual producer, whatever that person's title is, doesn't matter, but they need to produce your executive in the way that gets the best information out of them. Like, if
Yes,
they're
exactly.
bad at sit down interviews, don't do
Don't
a
do
sit down
that.
interview. Get them,
Yeah.
yeah, get them walking and talking, get
That's
them
what I mean by like the
talking to
horse to
whatever.
water. Like if they don't make notes and they're not a writing person, then get them on video. If it's not them, it's
Yep.
someone else in the organization. But like figure out what they're best at and then get the best ideas. I like that. The goal is to get the best
Yeah.
ideas out of them and then to build an engine around that. So many people are missing some of those pieces, so it requires all of them.
Yeah, and like sometimes like the best producers think outside of the box. Like we had this one CEO that we were working with that like could not get off script. And so we had them explain what they do for their business to their daughter. Like, and the point is
Like
great
literally.
content, right? That
Yeah.
was great content. It was like listening to this person explain what they do to their daughter was fantastic content. And like
That's a
that's the
whole
goal
podcast
of it,
series
right?
right there. Not with one person, but like a bunch of founders just explaining what they do to their actual kids is actually kind of a really cute idea.
I know, right?
Um,
And what and like stuff like that, it's just like maybe having them use sports analogies, maybe them do like whatever, maybe just like follow them around for a day. If you follow them around for a day and you get one clip, it might be worth it, right? So it's just,
yeah.
I think it's just thinking outside the box of like, how do I get this? Like, where are they best? And
Hmm.
record that and give that to the world. Like, your job is to get the best ideas out and package them up in a way that the audience would appreciate it, not to like fit it into some format that you think that they should be doing it in.
Yeah, I think that's very true. Like it's back to the same thing for like company level marketing. It's like you got to figure out what you're good at, what you're uniquely good at, what can come from you and not competitors, and not copy other people's playbooks, and figure out where your strengths are and like leverage, accelerate, catalyze whatever those strengths. And it's the same when working with an individual. And I don't think people think that way.
We did final thing before we get out of here. We're shooting this documentary, and we did a sort of like an embedded company all hands with this company, and it was the coolest thing. I mean, it was like literally so cool to just sit there, fly on the wall in this almost shot like, all or nothing or whatever. And you're just sitting there and like the camera's moving and it's super like handheld, and you're just seeing so much like raw emotion and people talking and all this stuff. And you're like, this is just, you can't record every all hands. You know what I mean?
No,
But
especially if they're
there's
every
just
day. Which brings us back to my whole
especially especially at 6 a.m.
killed me. It wasn't 6 a.m., but
But
it was
anyways, just thinking of ways to get cool stuff is important.
yeah. And to do it, to not, you don't have to follow the same playbook as everybody else. In fact, that won't work at all. So, yep. Cool.
Emily,
Well,
you're the best.
you didn't give me the questions in advance, but I was ready. So I feel good. Good topics.
You don't have to get ready if you stay ready. Uh,
Something
well,
like that. Something like that.
everybody go be a paid subscriber to MKT1 as the kids call it.
Or they call it Market One. I don't know what it's called. It's a bad name. Don't name your company with letters. It's a bad idea. But here we are. Yeah, MKT1 newsletter. We're easy to find on Substack. If you pay, you get lots of templates and resources and like free access to things like the event that we just did and a whole bunch of other stuff. But yeah, go subscribe. There's like, you'll be joining about 70,000 other people. So you're kind of late to the game. So you might want to do it.
Yeah, go do it and go pay for it. I pay for it. I've been paying since the very beginning, I think. I don't know when, but early days.
That's very nice of you. Thank you.
Yeah, always worth it. You're the best, Emily. Thanks so much. Take care.
Thanks.